Top story this hour, this piece from the Wall Street Journal. Tim Cook's bad year keeps getting worse. Is Tim Cook having a bad year, Paul? Is Tim Cook having a bad year?
It's been a rough year for Apple, Chuck. A couple things that they've...
Well, they can't all be good. Like, it bothers me to no end when people are like, I can't believe they're having such a bad year. Why? Like, are things just supposed to move in one direction? Now, granted, They're facing a lot of crap right now.
This is a lot. This is a lot.
Still, like, I have no sympathy for Tim Cook. This is the business you've chosen. Not to go all Godfather 2 on us, but like every business has trade-offs and every position has trade-offs. And if you are the CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the world, you got to deal with this. If he didn't want to do that, he's got enough money. He could just leave.
No question. He had done a tremendous job over his tenure since he took over as CEO, but now, like you mentioned, he's facing challenges. The most recent one, of course, is President Trump threatening to impose 25% tariffs on iPhones that would be sort of forcing them to come to the U.S. to make those. Currently, the majority of those are manufactured in China, though they are continuing to ramp up their presence in India. President Trump not thrilled with that. So that's one major issue that we can get into. The other one that he's battling is a lot of different legislation cases here, 2 against U.S. judges. The EU and regulators at the state and federal level are coming after their iPhone, the services division in particular. One federal judge, Ivan Gonzalez, had come after Cook, saying that Apple had ignored the injunction to allow app developers to have buyers or consumers bypass the steep fees that Apple takes on App Store purchases. Apple takes 25% cut. There's been many lawsuits coming after him saying that there needs to be another way where people could pay for services on the App Store outside of going through Apple's directory there, basically. And then you also have weakening market share in China. They've really struggled selling iPhones in China. And then the threat potentially of AI, which they are not a significant player in at the moment. So it is a lot.
So let's talk about a few of these different things. First, Tim Cook took over as the CEO for Apple back in late 2011, I believe it was. And I went and I pulled the chart for Apple since then. And here's what I saw just in looking at Apple over the past, 14 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many 20% drawdowns, separate ones, Apple has had since Tim Cook became CEO?
5.
Very good. 5. Actually, 6, I guess, if you count the current one. So they've had 6 of them. There was one in 2013, about 2 years after he took over. There's another in 2016, a few years after that. Another one in 2019, another one in 2022, and now this one. I'm sorry, another one in 2020, obviously COVID, and now this one here. So he's been through 6 of these. So the first thing that I'll say is, look, Apple in and of itself sees a 20% drawdown every 2 to 3 years. That's kind of how the business works. And how many times have I heard these stories? Gee, Apple's having trouble selling in China. Oh, this latest iPhone replacement cycle isn't taking off. There's always some story like that that's out there. And I guess it's kind of a compliment to Tim Cook to be like, hey, every time they've been faced with these different challenges, they've figured it out pretty darn quickly, because on each one of those different instances, I'm not just looking at like stock pullbacks that then hovered in flat. The stocks hit new all-time highs after each of these. And so they're pretty good at fixing their problems with it. Like once the problem develops, they typically fix it within 6 to 8 quarters, which is kind of remarkable. Like that's pretty good. And so I know there's like all this hand-wringing now about, again, I feel like the AI is the one that everyone's all, what's Apple going to do about AI? And it's like, who is looking for generative AI in their daily life?
It's not today, but it's all about, the future. I guess the counter argument would be, and I'm not going to go against the track run he's had at all, but
Sure.
Has there been innovation over that period of time that compares to, one of the greatest innovators in the space, his predecessor, Steve Jobs? Not really. I don't think that there has been tremendous amount of new products unveiled. I'm not arguing that Tim Cook has been a tremendous steward of the company, and he deserves a lot of success for the supply chain intricacies that are in place in China to this point, and just running Apple really well over this period of time. But the new product piece...
Well, I guess here's the other piece that I come back to on AI, because that's the new product, that's the new shiny thing that everyone is focused on. People seem to forget, because I know that with AI, it's like, oh, we got to do it now. We got to be first, because I don't know why. Pause for a second. Does anyone know why, if you're not, first with AI, there's nothing for you?
That, to your point, that a consumer or individual behavior will just get accustomed to using one particular service and they dominate market share. But to counter myself, there's nothing to say that you can't come out with a better version than the first product and become the go-to source out there. Google's an example of that. They weren't the first search engine out there. They just did it in a unique way that was better than their peers. Apple, which you're probably going down this direction with on the music device piece. They weren't the first thing. Numerous things. They weren't the first thing. Their iPad, that's not the first, tablet device that had been unveiled. Far from it. Same thing with the iPod. None of these were
the
first.
iPhone was not the first. People forget BlackBerry was the dominant player in that space for 5 or 6 years, and Apple came along in 2007 and said, oh, that's a nice little smartphone market you got there. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it. And they ran roughshod over them. So I guess what I'm getting at is, I'm not really convinced that Apple needs an AI thing anyways, just because I just don't know that that's... I don't know that that's who they need to be in their market that they operate in. But even if you say, okay, they do need it, they don't necessarily have to be first. And I think it's also been shown that, hey, they've been able to leverage their market power into some pretty good deals for Apple as well. Granted, one of them is now, under threat, the money that they get from Google because of Google's own antitrust cases that are going on. But Apple didn't develop a search engine. Instead, they said, hey, all you search engines out there, pay us in order to be the default one on our platform. And Google said, fine, no problem. And now they're getting like $15 billion a year.
$20 billion
from Google. Yeah. So I kind of look at it and I go, all right, if Apple doesn't develop its own, native AI platform, and if AI turns out to be, to have real staying power, and if it does what everyone hopes it's going to do, you don't think OpenAI is going to be like, hey, we'll pay to be on your platform so that Perplexity doesn't, become the, default, or Anthropic or Claude, all. I guess I just kind of look at it and I go, why does Apple need to always be the developer of it? Apple's made its bones. Apple's made its bones two ways. They've developed a great hardware-software interface that makes everything really easy to use.
Yep.
And then they've monetized the heck out of it at every juncture possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they need to be like the AI company.
Yeah, to your point, they have the position where they can offer, just as recent search here, 1.4 billion active iPhone users worldwide. So you think any AI platform out there that becomes successful would want access to that user base. Now, the argument being made here is that maybe iPhones aren't, the hardware device of the next 10 years, but that's a story for another day as to how that plays out.
Are you going to get the brain chip when they make one?
I want to be really late to that.